Hello, everybody. Welcome to our weekly Facebook Live series, Get to Know the HPO. My name is Abigail Richardson-Schulte, and I am composer in residence with the HPO. Well, today is special because we get to look behind the scenes. When we think about what goes on before a concert, we generally think about musicians rehearsing, and of course, that's very important. But there's so much other material, other things that need to be covered. So we're going to be talking to two of our very important staff members today, Stephanie Laporte and Heather Hollis. So let's start out with Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, Abby.
Hi. So now today on Facebook Live, this really shouldn't be a big deal for you at all because you are so used to talking to people. In fact, that's really a big part of your job, right? Talking to people from all walks of life and making them feel comfortable in the situation you have planned for them, correct?
Absolutely. That is a huge part of my job. A little different to be on this side of it, but I do love that part of my job.
Yeah. Now, when did you join the HPO and in what position?
I joined in November of 2015. I was hired by Carol Kehoe, who was the executive director at that time, just as a contract position to plan the logistics of the first family concert that was going to be happening in January 2016. And that was a full day of activities as well as a family-friendly concert.
Right. Now, after that, obviously, we realized that you were good and we couldn't let you go. So now tell us what that position then turned into. And I understand you work in development, right? So what is development in the arts?
Development in the arts is really about fundraising, stewardship with sponsors, with donors. A lot of what I'm responsible for is our fundraising campaigns and planning with the rest of our development team how we communicate with our sponsors and our donors and acquiring new sponsors and finding the things that might interest them to want to be a part of the HPO family and invest in the HPO.
Mm-hmm. Right. And now, as part of that, of course, you are organizing events, lots of different events. What sorts of things do you do?
Well, with events, it's very broad. Almost everything we do is an event, really. We have our main stage concerts, but a lot of community events as well. So I do front of house for all of those things to make sure that we're all where we need to be, when we need to be there. Any of our special fundraising events, our larger events, and also any of our donor events. So we do many things with our donors, little rewards. We have a conductor circle lounge where we have our leader donors. I'm always in charge of making sure that everything there is as it should be, and yeah, just about anything we do is an event, it seems.
Yeah, we've had some pictures up on the screen there. That's great. Now, in terms of really large fundraising events, how much planning is there involved in those? How far in advance do you have to start?
Well, it depends on how successful you want it to be. Ideally, for a large event, a year to a year and a half beforehand is really to really plan out what you want to do and how you're going to do it and have the right people in place. Yeah,
That's a long time.
It is a long time. It is, but you have to think, you need to think about a venue. You need to think about what your theme is going to be and what kind of partners you might be able to activate to make that theme a reality. It's a lot of work to find all of the different partners and volunteers as well to help put it all together.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie. This gives us a pretty good idea about what you do. We'll get back to you in just a moment, but now is a great chance to introduce Heather Hollis. So welcome, Heather.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Abby. Hi, Steph.
Hey, Heather.
All right. Heather isn't here with us yet. There she is. Hi, Heather. Welcome.
Hi.
Now, Heather, how long have you been with the HPO?
This year will be 10 years with the HPO. 2010, yeah, I think it was Annalisa who hired me 10 years ago.
Heather, how long have you been with the HPO?
Oh, 10 years. I think we're cutting out.
Yeah, I think Abby's just having a little bit of a technical difficulty. Heather, what do you do at the HPO?
I am the audience engagement coordinator, aka box office manager. What do I do? I'm responsible for subscriptions, right from mailing packages, receiving packages, payments, tickets, seating. I seat all of the subscriptions, box office phone orders, single tickets, reports, data management. I work with Ticketmaster or the box office at the venue, as they also sell blocks of seats for us. Concert nights, front of house. I could be anywhere in the lobby, and special events, whatever Steph tells us to do. So we're all hands on deck for that.
Yeah. Now, just to be clear, when people call the HPO, they might expect a big box office team, right? But what they're getting is you, and just
Me.
you. Yeah, and I think it's wonderful that you have such a fantastic relationship with people because of that. You know so much about them, and that's really lovely.
I do. I love the relationship that I have with the patrons. I've formed some really close friendships.
Mm-hmm. Now, it strikes me that your job has changed a bit in the last couple of years as people are moving towards buying more tickets online. Is that right?
Yeah. The past 2 years, we have gone online, choose your seats, which is a great option. And we are currently in the process of upgrading our patron and ticketing system. So for the new season.
Right, right. We just have a comment here from Roy Dickinson, who says, I'm always impressed with how staff go out of the way to acknowledge donors. You're great at that. There you go. Lovely. And you are. Now, we have a question submitted previously on Facebook from Daryl Dockstader. Daryl is one of our most engaged audience members, I would say. He is at so many of our community events, and you can often see Daryl in the audience with a sketch pad. And then after the event, he comes and gives the sketch to the person performing or speaking. And this, I mean, our musicians love it. I love it. I have so many sketches that are by my piano. But it really takes some of our guest soloists aback. They've never had this experience, and they love it. So anyway, that's a bit of background on Daryl. We love Daryl.
Yes.
And Daryl writes, how did your career paths lead to these positions and to the HPO? And for that, Stephanie, please join us back in the conversation.
Yes, well, my background is in the performance arts, actually. So that gives me a little bit of a knowledge of interacting with people. And I have over 20 years in the hospitality industry. And I mean, I did everything just about except cooking in the kitchen. But front of house, everything from coat check, go-go dancing, managing, and absolutely everything in between. And on a personal level, I have a lot of parties at my house. So I think I'm just always looking to engage that way and put on a party and chat with people.
All right. How about you, Heather?
So I I was at U-Haul in the head office for 18 years. So I was behind the scenes on the phones daily a lot. So that probably where I get my phone skills. But yeah, I was at the Cops Coliseum box office when the position opened up, and that's how I applied.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And thanks for the question, Daryl. That's a good one. Now, let's, for both of you, talk about what happens in concert week and concert night. Is it crazy?
Steph?
Absolutely. I think our roles are different, but I think we both have roller skates on the week of a concert. Leading up to that is a very busy time. There's a lot of events that happen the week of a concert, and the concert night itself is very hectic. We arrive fairly early. I think I'm there between 4 and 4:30 on a concert night. And there's a lot to think about. There's all of the behind the scenes. There's the volunteers who, just a shout out to our volunteers, especially if any of them are listening, because we really couldn't do what we do without them. They are integral to everything that we present. And organizing the volunteers and making sure that they have their jobs. We staff programs. I might be hosting a pre and or post-concert reception for a sponsor. There might be a meet and greet with musicians backstage or with Gemma, bringing musicians to meet our donors during intermission. That sort of thing happens as well. So it's very orchestrated. The entire evening, and making sure also, as Roy said, that we are available there to our patrons and donors. I feel like when the doors open, it's such a thrill. I feel like I'm having this huge party and I just can't wait for all my friends to get here.
Exactly. There we've got a shot of concert nights. Yeah, that's it's really fun in the lobby. Okay, and how about you, Heather?
Yeah, so concert week is by far the busiest week for ticket sales. No matter the concert, that concert week, everybody's buying. So yeah, it's ticketing, it's seating, it's reports. Concert night, like Steph said, it's hectic. And then once the doors closed, the audience is in, you kind of breathe because yeah.
And in terms of seating, I mean, you have to work some magic there, right? I mean, you have a lot of requests from people and expectations, and you're the one figuring out where everybody goes. That's quite something.
Yeah, it's like playing Tetris most times, but but it works. It does work.
Yeah, that's great. Now, let's talk about the Friday before concerts. Now, for me, that is one of the busiest days. It's wild. So I'm doing a lot of presentations to different groups. And Stephanie, you were there the whole day. Can you tell us about that? Fitting people in and the types of groups we see.
Absolutely. Well, a Friday before a concert, we could have any number of events, and Abby is usually presenting at most of them, if not all of them. But we would have a seniors talk and tea in the morning. So the talk and tea is an hour and a half. We set up the hospitality for that. Coffee, treats. We might have to go get treats. Sometimes they're donated. Our volunteers really help with that as well. Then bringing everyone in and orchestrating that. Also, sometimes just before rehearsal begins and before the talk and tea people come in, we might have a rehearsal experience for a school. So there could be anywhere from 10 to 30. We've had as many as 60 students coming in from various schools. They get a debrief by you, Abby, and they go in and sit on stage with the musicians to experience the rehearsal. Then afterwards, there have been times, usually I think once a year, we might have a lunch with our core musicians to talk about launching the following season. There might be an event at the library that you would be hosting, Abby, but we often have to make sure that we get our musician or a guest artist over there, and as well someone from marketing would be there to set up with collateral.
And
In
those
the
are
afternoons,
tight.
yes, oh, very tight. You put your roller skates on those days too,
Well,
like
I mean,
15 minutes, if that.
yeah, and you know, we have the students coming hopefully at 9:30, but their buses are often late, and then sneak in, give them a quick rundown of what they'll hear, get them on stage, teach them what is appropriate stage behavior, and then at 11 o'clock there's the talk and tea, and we could have 60 people there, and then at 12:30 that finishes. And then the library starts at 12:45, and that goes until 1:30, and then maybe at 2 o'clock for the afternoon rehearsal, we have more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Donors come sometimes for rehearsal. Memory Cafe is another program that we have. There's a lot happening on those days.
And we have a new program this year for people with early onset dementia. And they come into the hall in the afternoon and have a presentation about the music. So yeah, those Fridays are busy. And then afterwards we might have a dinner with guest artists. So yeah, busy and fun. We have a lovely comment here from Kim Varian, who is our much loved executive director at the HPO. She says, "We're so proud to have such a creative and dedicated team. Thank you for making it look so easy on concert night." Lovely. And just another follow-up from Anne Valentin, who wrote a ditto to Roy's comment. Thanks for being so responsive. Now, let's get to another question by Daryl. And by the way, those of you watching, if you have questions for Stephanie and Heather, please ask them. We love this to be really interactive, and comments as well. So Daryl's next question is about what happens after concert night. So he asks, who gets to read the post-concert surveys, and how do the survey results influence HPO decisions? This is another fantastic question, Daryl. Thank you. So take it away. Who wants to start with this?
So our surveys start with the marketing team. They conduct them. They receive them. All surveys are anonymous, so we don't know who's writing in. As a team, we look at the survey, we see where the HPO can improve, but we do it as a team, which is fantastic. Steph, there's
yeah. Then from my perspective, because we are actually tenants of the First Ontario Concert Hall, we rent here basically. So we meet with core staff. I do anyway, once a month. And we go over the things that might be related to the venue, because if it's venue related, we don't really have control over that. It could be governed by core if it's maybe something having to do with an usher or the hospitality or something like that, and we bring it up to them. But then there's also other things that have to do structurally with the venue, when people complain about the elevator or something, and then that's a city issue. So that's my role with this survey, is to then bring it to the attention of the appropriate people so that hopefully something can be done with regards to it.
Yeah, so I guess these survey results cover a lot of different content. It's not necessarily about what was happening on the stage, but the whole experience of it, right? And for those of you watching, we have a very tight staff. And every week we have an operations meeting where everybody is there and we update each other on what we're doing. And the weeks I love the most are the ones after concert week. because we really get to understand what was great, what people had problems with, what we can do better. And so a lot of that is understanding what came back as just, personal feedback with interacting with people on the night, and also, of course, the survey. So yeah, we do take that very seriously. Thanks for the question, Daryl. Now, the next question is from Neil Spalding, who he was our first Facebook Live series victim, and he is operations manager and personnel manager and plays second horn with the orchestra. And he actually took away my next question. My next question was, okay, we understand what you do for the HPO. What does the HPO do for you? And so his question is, we have such a great team. For all of you, what is the most satisfying aspect of your job?
Doesn't matter. Okay. For me, it's quite a few things. Listening to music that I've never heard. My colleagues, we have such an amazing team. We're all so very supportive of each other. Our volunteers, again, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't do what we do without them. And the patrons, absolutely the patrons. Again, they make what I do so much more pleasurable.
Yeah, great. Stephanie?
A lot of the same for me as well, to be honest. I really love our team. We are a great, strong, tight team, and we spend a lot of time with each other. So it's good that we're a close-knit team. Our patrons and donors, I've really had the opportunity over the past 4 years to get to know a lot of our donors and our sponsors. And I am a very social person, and I just love that aspect of my job. The fact that a big part of my job on concert night in particular is to chat with people is really quite heavenly. The musicians, I've gotten to know them quite a bit over the years as well. And, they're not just people doing a fantastic job up on stage. They're human beings that I've really come to build friendships with. And just the fact being in the arts, to be honest, I, as I said earlier, I do come from an arts background. So this is sort of my connection to it.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. And speaking of musicians, we have some watching today and some lovely comments for you. So Nancy Nelson, who plays second oboe with the orchestra, says, "What would we do without these wonderful women?" And I think there are 4 exclamation marks in there. And Mary J., who plays second trumpet and did such a phenomenal Facebook Live interview a few weeks ago, wrote, "And you do such a great job." And then Melanie Ayers, who plays second bassoon with the orchestra, says, "As a musician, I really appreciate having staff on site for our community events." Absolutely. Even with a trio performing in a mall, there's a staff member supporting us. Thank you. Those are lovely comments.
Very lovely. Thank you.
That is very nice.
Yeah. Now, there's actually one more. No, actually, first I'll ask you, we've heard about what you love about working at the HPO. Now, what do you not love about working at the HPO? And you can be honest here. This is a real conversation. Not every job is perfect. Go for it. Give it now. Here's your chance.
Go ahead.
Oral speaking.
Like this right
like
now.
This.
Yeah, we made Heather do this. She had no choice. We all
really
ganged up on her. Told her she had to do it. So thank you, Heather. Yeah, any more?
I guess as much as we're going into this new data management, but I think that's one of my struggles as well. It's good, it's positive, but yeah, learning that new thing is probably for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, perhaps a bit tedious data management. Yeah, fair enough.
It's a great upgrade though. It's definitely a positive.
Okay, and Steph?
For me, I think that as much as I love events, sometimes we have a lot of events. And as we said, as Melanie said, we always have an HPO staff member on site for even the smallest thing. And as Melanie also knows, that's because sometimes even at the smallest thing, things go wrong. So sometimes it's very hard to juggle the work-life balance when there's unexpected events that we have to be at in the evenings, or sometimes it's even other social things. We're a very large part of the community, and we take pride in building relationships with our sponsors. And so sometimes that means other community events that we are not performing at, or sponsor events that we want to show our support as well. So there comes a point at times where it gets a little bit overwhelming and I forget what my house looks like.
Speaking of your house, we have something from Seb Laporte here, who is probably not Seb. Hi, Mom, your son. I never realized how much you did for the HPO. Keep up the great work. Love you.
Oh,
Aw, that's adorable.
Oh, that's what my kids. I'm not sure who.
Yeah, we'll talk about your kids in a moment here. Another comment here from Denise Dickey. Thank you. All three of these women are exceptional at what they do. Such gratitude and respect for them.
thanks, Denise.
We have a follow-up question here from Roy Dickinson, and this refers to something we were talking about a few minutes ago about the surveys. What percentage of responses do you get on the surveys? Do you know that offhand? This is more of a marketing question.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might be able to post in the comments. I'm not sure.
That's right. We have our marketing team who are always supporting us here with great comments and links, so they might answer that question for you, Roy. Now, I know that because of what you have to do in the hall on concert night, you can't always get into the performance itself. But from those performances you have seen, do you have any favorites or memorable concerts or even favorite composers?
I'm probably going to go back.
I have a
Go ahead. I'm going to go back to when I first started. We had Matt Anderson with the HPO, I think early 2010, 2011. And I followed him ever since. I've enjoyed him. And I think probably most recent would be Scheherazade in February.
Rimsky-Korsakov, beautiful and beautiful, beautiful orchestration. Yeah, that was a chance to see every member of the orchestra shine.
Yeah.
Steph, what about you?
I have to agree with Scheherazade, and that was the last live concert that we had here. So that one will be staying with me for a while. Other ones for me were Stuart Goodyear when he performed Brahms piano concerto, I believe it was. I really enjoyed that. Most recently, Holst, the Planets, really knocked my socks off last March. Like really got me. I felt it all. I felt every single bit of that. And another one for me was actually, I think it was at one of our intimate and immersive concerts, was Bethany Bergman performing Lark Ascending. And I had goosebumps through that. I had tears. It was extremely moving. I would give anything to see her perform that again.
Great. And for those of you that don't know, our intimate and immersive series are now happening at the Cotton Factory, but that one was actually at the Studio Theater. They're a chance, well, to get up close, intimate, and immersive. We usually have a few hundred people there rather than, getting close to a few thousand. And it's really a chance to see the musicians just very, very close, and each piece is introduced. It's a little bit more casual. Now, we have a question here from Melanie Ayers, and this kind of ties into my next question too, but she specifically writes, do you have a memorable anecdote of when things went wrong? So if we can just save, we'll talk about HPO in the garden in a moment. But apart from that, do you have any stories about things that went wrong?
Oh,
for me, it would be.
I'm sure I do.
For me, it would be the database. Database
Go ahead, Heather.
issues on concert night. That would be for me. Without the box office, without the First Ontario Concert Hall box office manager, he made it right each and every time. So, yeah, that's.
Steph?
Yes, for me, it would definitely be more on the event side. You know, sometimes our timing, as we were saying on a Friday, can be really tight. And if we don't have everything that we need when we need it, things can go wrong, or if people show up too early and we don't know what to do with them in the meantime, and everybody is running around. Those are, I know it's happened. Melanie, I think I might have blocked it out, honestly. But there have been those times where things get a little hairy as far as presenting things on time.
And I'll jump in and answer that one too, if I can. So a few years, gosh, I think it was maybe 2015 or 2016. It was when we were doing our conductor search, and we had a number of conductors in that year, and all of them had to do a pre-concert talk. And now I was, you know, looking at everything each conductor was doing so that I could report back and give my feedback. So I was dutifully sitting at the pre-concert talk, waiting for, you know, this conductor to give the talk. And then our executive director came over at the time and said, "He's not here and he's not coming. You do it." And so I was completely unprepared. And I just got up and had to do the pre-concert talk totally off the cuff. I guess it went okay because that's what I do now. I do all of the pre-concert talks, but I perhaps I wouldn't have done it had that really scary situation not had happened. And it wasn't my first time doing it, but I mean, I'm usually more prepared for them. So that off the cuff was certainly scary. And then another time would be that we were supposed to have a guest appear at the pre-concert talk, and he just didn't show. And the other musicians, this was for one of the Pops concerts, and the other musicians in the band did not know where he was. I had no guests. And the conductor had declined to speak at the pre-concert talk. I think he just wanted to focus on the performance. But at one point, he walked out behind me to put something on the music stand, and I grabbed him anyway and said, "Oh, you're joining me for the talk." So I forced it, even though I knew he didn't want to, but I had nobody. So those are my scary things, when we know we have a few hundred people there waiting to see something, and I have nobody to talk to. So we have a couple of things now. Courtney Campbell asks, "Thank you for everything you do. My wife and I love attending." And also another question, any advice for bringing children there for their first performance? So do we have guidelines on how old children should be to come to?
You do.
A main stage performance?
Five is the recommended age. There are performances that are probably more child friendly if it's their first time. We have family concerts that we've had in the fall, and maybe something a little bit more Pops-like. Not sure.
Yeah, and our family concerts are at Mohawk College, and they often have some activities beforehand, and it's very casual. So if we have children laughing, screaming, if you have to get up with your kids, it doesn't matter. It's very friendly. So those would be certainly something to check out. And then also, I think our holiday concert is very family friendly, and nobody's going to be concerned if everything isn't just exactly the way the concert experience they have in their mind should be. And there we are. Now, let's move on to HPO in the garden. So, Stephanie, this is really your thing, but I know that Heather is a big part of making this happen. So do you have any stories? This is, for those of you watching, HPO in the Garden is one of our recent very large fundraising events. And it's interesting to note how much has to happen behind the scenes to make that happen, and even implementing on the day and on the days leading up to it. What goes on, and can anything go wrong?
Abby, it can, and it does.
And it did.
HPO on the Garden, and it did. HPO on the Garden was an absolutely beautiful event, but literally on pins and needles for the 2 weeks leading up to it and that day. We were very fortunate that we had the family of one of our board members offered their home, their property, for us to be able to hold an outdoor, basically garden event. This family also has real croquet courts. So of course we had to incorporate croquet into the event. What happens with this event, with an outdoor event, is of course we are dependent on the weather. So what this event ended up looking like was very different from the original picture of it, which was to have things set up along the property with a central tent, and to have our musicians perform in small ensembles, over by the lake, overlooking the water, in different areas to engage the space. They really have a beautiful property. This was the Schwenger family that allowed us to be here. And we had a plein air painter who was doing a painting on the spot that would be a part of our silent auction. It was a really beautifully planned event, but as we found closer to the date, the weather was not going to be cooperating with us. So first of all, this meant moving everything inside a tent, and having 250 people inside a tent. So that had to grow from what we originally wanted it to be. Leading up to the event, I spent many days over there just hanging out while crew would set everything up. It was a lot of moving parts. We had a lot of restaurant partners that partnered with us and donated their time and food. So all of that takes coordinating. We had a huge team of volunteers, and they really helped with the coordinating. But a few of the things that really went wrong, one was, and you just can't control these things sometimes. One was the swarm of gnats. They were literally black clouds of gnats everywhere. And I remember walking through the property at one point, getting very close to the date, and I was eating them. It was disgusting, and they were everywhere. And I was flipping out about what was going to happen. And actually, the day of the event, we had to wipe down the tents. We had to wipe down absolutely everything because they're drawn to the white, and they were everywhere. And then in addition, there was also a little sprinkler system mishap, which I originally had thought that perhaps we had damaged one of their underground sprinkler systems, but it turns out it was a little clogged with some grass. And so the area where this happened, it created quite a puddle. And we really did our best. Of course, it was under the tent. And so it's not like we could just, put pylons around it and pretend it wasn't there. So we tried to mop it up. We had volunteers there with towels, mopping it up, and paper towels. We put down plastic flooring for it. There is a young man from Collective Arts that I'm pretty sure went home with really wet feet that night, because then we tried to put our restaurant partners in that space so that our patrons were not walking on it quite as much. Oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed.
Oh my gosh.
That went wrong. And with an event like this also, it's start to finish. It's everything. I had to go back the next day with Diana Weir to get all of the garbage out, and we had to go take care of the garbage and the recycling and things like that. Like, it was, we do full service events.
Yeah, they're exciting.
Yes.
Now, just to follow up, read a few comments here. Elaine gave a very nice compliment to me, which I'll read. Thank you, Elaine. Abigail, you do an amazing job of being the face and voice we experience at so many events. Thank you for always being there. Well, thank you, and I'm there with my team, as you can see. Daryl writes, thank you for making every concert such a welcoming event. I bring adults with special abilities to events. Despite concerns about orchestra being stuffy, this concern is unfounded with the HPO. Thank you for being so inclusive. Lovely. And David Yeager, who is a composer and producer, writes, all these stories are intriguing. They show how the orchestra plays such a key role in keeping the artistic community active. Thank you for that, David. Yeah, we really try to be important in our community. Absolutely. Now, Heather, you have been at the HPO for 10 years now. Can you give us an idea about how the organization has changed in your time there?
Yeah. Start right from staff. Our staff has doubled in size. Going to show you just how busy we have become. When I started, we had 10 main stage performances, a What Next festival, and some library performances. And now we're well over 60 engagements a year between main stage and off the main stage, library, education, community, happy hours. So that's a big part. Our data management, our ticketing system, moving just from Main Street, 105 Main Street East to Hamilton Place, which was Hamilton Place, now First Ontario Concert Hall, another change. And we had second balcony open when I first started for subscribers, so that you could subscribe in the second balcony, which I hope to see happen again one day soon. Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now the second balcony opens up just a few weeks before a concert, right? If the ticket sales are really great.
Yeah.
We have a huge hall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it easier to have the office in the same location, in the same building as the concert hall?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember lugging a rolling suitcase with tickets and reports and anything else that I may have needed down Main Street to the stage door. And yeah, it's so much easier.
I can't imagine that.
Stephanie, any changes you've seen with the organization?
Just some of the ones that Heather's already mentioned. I mean, the staff has doubled even since more than doubled, I think, since I arrived 5 years ago. And we're definitely doing a lot more out in the community. And I think that had started just before I came on board, but I certainly see a lot more that we do out there now.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's get personal. Can you tell us a little bit about your about where you're from and your background?
I'll let you go first this time.
Oh, thanks, Heather. I'm from Hamilton, born and raised in Hamilton. I did live in Toronto for about 13 years. As I mentioned, I have a background in the arts, so I started dancing here in Hamilton at the Dance Center, and that progressed into me attending and teaching at Theatre Aquarius Summer School program, and both of those were run by the Zampronia family. They run a summer program now still. I went to Randolph School of the Arts in Toronto and absolutely loved living in Toronto. When I had my first son, he was born in Toronto. My husband, who's from Quebec, all of his family is in Gatineau. We decided to move to Hamilton because this is where all of my family is. And I have 3 sons. I'm happy we made that move. I have 2 brothers, and all of our kids go to the same school. So we're a pretty tight knit family. I have 3 boys. They are 11, 12, and 14. They keep me very busy. My middle son as well, he is autistic. So he's a very intelligent boy. Oh, here they are. They're also my workforce at the HPO. They help with mail outs and all kinds of things. Yeah, and this is them. Oh, I have to tell you this story actually, because this just goes to show what all of us do. This was at Franco Fest a few years ago, and the night before this event, Kim Varian, who's now our executive director, and Christina Volpini were at the indie concert and had to drive around Gage Park at 11 o'clock at night to drop off music stands. And this was the performance, which, you know, now that I know these musicians, they were probably like, this is so not what we're used to doing, but it was magical. It was this little, like a little fairy concert in Gage Park at dusk, and it was absolutely magical. But I had to bring my family because we were responsible for bringing the music stands back, and I couldn't carry them all on my own through Gage Park. So they get forced to work for the HPO as well. They love it. They love it.
And
so yeah, that's my family.
yeah, great. And Heather, I know I've seen your kids working for the HPO too. Do you want to give us a bit of an idea about your background and your family?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Tapley Town, which is on the Stony Creek Mountain. So I've not ventured far. I've gone from Stony Creek to Hamilton. I do have 3 children. I have a son who is in heavy equipment. I have a daughter who just finished her first year at Redeemer. She's currently working, has been working throughout all of COVID at a grocery store. And my youngest is finishing grade 11 at Sherwood and is also working throughout this pandemic.
So neither of you have a classical music background, and yet here you are working for an orchestra. Is it ever a challenge not to have that classical music background?
Not at all. Not at all. We complement each other, I think, more than anything, the entire staff. There are definitely the staff who are fully knowledgeable in classical music, but we all bring something special to the table, and yeah.
Stephanie?
I do find it challenging actually, because, you know, I interact a lot with our donors, and our donors know more about the HPO than I do, and they've been coming for a long time. And I do find I have to do my homework before a concert, so that I've listened to the music. I ask people questions about it if I'm not sure. But you know, when they're telling me at intermission how they've broken down the first half of the concert, I'm literally smiling and nodding. And all I can say is that I liked it, because I really have nothing constructive to offer. So it's not challenging to my job, but I certainly notice the lack of knowledge there.
Well, and I know you have been forced to sit through many of my presentations on classical music, so we're forcing this education on you.
And I appreciate that, Abby.
Good. Now, my next question is about what you do for fun outside of work. And to bring this in, I'm going to mention a question by our staff member, Lennox Toppin from Development. Heather, we're going to start with you because his first question is about what is behind you. So he says, I feel so privileged to work with these dynamic women. I see some wonderful artwork behind Stephanie and lovely plants behind Heather. Any stories about those? So if you could each address that, and then also tell us what you do for fun outside of work.
So to Lennox, I have been called by my children the crazy plant lady, because within the past year, I've started collecting different plants. I'm not fully knowledgeable as Lennox is, but yeah, they're my little babies. What else do I do? I love to hike. Dundas Valley. I know that you, Abby, are close to Dundas Valley. Aramosa Karst, the beach strip, listening to music.
And what kind of music? I think we know it's not classical.
No. So it is a big mix. Anything from country and folk to worship to I don't know the genre, probably alternative singer songwriter. Yeah, it's a big range. But least amount of knowledge for the classical.
Yeah. Well, I feel for you. I've been getting into being music director for live streams, which is really interesting. And in December, I was out with the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra, and I was directing their live stream, which is calling out to camera people which instruments they should take at which time. It's an adrenaline rush. But this concert was for country singer Paul Brandt. I don't know if you know him, and I felt like, wow, I'm in a different world here, even though it is the orchestra. It's fun. So, Stephanie, what about you? What is behind you there, and what do you do for fun?
Well, I'll leave it to Lennox to ask this question. This is a piece of artwork, and I don't know who it's by, Lennox, and it is on loan to the HPO at this time, and that's all I can say about that piece. I really like it, though. I'm in the office because I couldn't guarantee an uninterrupted live broadcast today at my home. So I'm here at the office, and this is right by my desk, and all I can say is that it's lovely to look at, and I enjoy it. But personal life, what I like to do, I love to cook. I very big into cooking, not only for myself, but as Heather knows, for other people. And I sometimes drop things off every once in a while.
She's a great cook.
I love my vegetable garden that I have just put in this year. That was my Mother's Day gift. We used to have one and removed it. So I'm enjoying that and taking care of that. I'm really into kickboxing. My sons all do karate. They're all fairly high level belts. And we go to United Family Martial Arts, which we just love. They're a great school. And right now they're taking a lot of precautions to still be able to train everyone. And that is, I'm there 4 or 5 nights a week, usually. They become like a family as well. And it is a really great way to decompress after stressfulness at home or at work.
Speaking of stressfulness at home or at work, how are you doing right now when the two worlds have converged? Are you hanging in there?
I am, with the help of my friends at Vineland Estates Winery. Thank you. It has been really challenging, to be honest, Abby, because my husband and I are both working from home, and we're very fortunate to still have our jobs and actually be busy. I don't know how we are still so busy at the HPO, but we are. There's a lot of planning and innovation that needs to happen right now. And so there is a lot of work, but having 3 children and the homeschooling has been very, very challenging. My oldest son is in grade 9, and that's been really stressful. He's had English, for crying out loud. I'm teaching him Shakespeare, and that is no easy feat. It has been very stressful along those lines. My youngest is in grade 5, so he needs a lot of help. We have to do the lessons with him. So that means that he's unable to work a lot independently. And then my middle guy, and I think I touched on this earlier, he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which is on the autism spectrum. And he's in grade 7. So he's actually been quite good at doing his work. Academics have never really been an issue for him, but he really struggles with what we're dealing with here, and not having a routine, and and just the craziness of all of this and being home. So it's been a learning experience. It has been a little challenging. So we got a new puppy a couple of weeks ago just to add, a little spice.
Perfect timing. Actually, I heard puppies were in high demand in France because people were not allowed to go out unless they had a dog to walk.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway. Heather, how has it been for you?
It's not been terrible. As far as my girls and I, we all work different schedules, so we're keeping out of each other's hair. I miss my coworkers on a daily basis. I miss not hugging my dad, which I'm now allowed to do, so I'm really excited about that. And I just had to cancel a trip to Newfoundland for my girls and I for this summer because, well, the Rock is closed.
Yeah. Now, one of your family members is watching. Your sister-in-law, Leanne Hollis, writes, "My beautiful sister-in-law, Heather, the crazy plant lady, LOL." So that's nice. Now, Heather, I understand that you do some serious volunteering in the community. Can you tell us about that briefly?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started volunteering with the Salvation Army soup van probably 5 years ago, downtown Hamilton, every other Tuesday. Then I started with Friendship Group Ministries, where it's held at Emmanuel Christian Reformed Church. Then I started with an outreach committee. I'm on the outreach committee also through my church. And most recently in November, I started volunteering at the Mission Thrift Store on Fennel.
Impressive. Great. Good for you.
I love it. I love it.
That's wonderful to hear. Now, one last question for both of you as longtime Hamiltonians. Do you have any tips for us if restaurants to eat at, which will now be opening for patios on Friday, or places to shop in the area?
Yeah, we don't eat out much, but so Farm Boy on the Mountain, we frequent. For my plants, it's G&L Nurseries in Smithville and thrift stores, the Mission Thrift Store and the Resource Store on Upper Gage.
Cool. Stephanie?
Yeah, restaurants, I have a few that I like to go to. The Express Italian Eatery, I actually worked there for 10 years. Love that place. Caro is a new restaurant that opened up on Ottawa Street. I'm an East End girl. Sam's Queenston Bakery is where you must get your cannolis. You must. They are absolutely mouthwatering. And I have to put out Roma Bakery out there. It's if you are not from Hamilton, you probably don't know about Roma pizza, but you really should. You just should try it. It's just bread and sauce, but there is something so addicting about it. It's delicious. And I love doing on Ottawa Street, the Millionaire's Daughter. I love the antique shops on Ottawa Street and some of the fun little shops on Locke Street too, like Lulu and Levine.
All right, great, thank you. Now, this has been fascinating today, and so great to see inside what has to happen before the shows and between the concerts. And thank you so much for all of you do for the HPO. We really value you. So thank you.
Thank you.
And before we go today, I'd just like to point out that head carpenter of First Ontario Concert Hall, Jim Brown, retires today. So we'd like to thank him for his many years of service and for helping us put on concerts at the hall. So thank you very much for that, Jim. And also remember that we are in Hamilton Arts Week. You can go to hamiltonartscouncil.ca to see what's going on there. And we are also in the Hamilton Arts Awards. There are video presentations tomorrow night, Thursday night at 7 on Facebook, and Saturday night. And for those of you that would like to cheer me on, I've been nominated in the category of music. So check that out, Hamilton Arts Awards tomorrow night on Facebook at 7 o'clock, and give me some support there. All right, so next week we will be joined by our principal trumpet player, Michael Fedician. So get your trumpet questions ready. Mike also does a lot of work in the community and leads our HPO brass quintet. So that's it for today. I hope you'll join me next week at the same time, Wednesday at noon. And thank you so much, Heather and Stephanie.
Thanks, Abby.
Goodbye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Abby.
Bye.